Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson, Alternative Media here, and I'm here with Tim Picciott, the Liberty Advisor, and I really think it's important that we talk about how many big names, and I mean power players around the world are getting into Bitcoin right now. We're seeing massive adoption happening, and at the same time, all you see on TV is bearish FUD. Fear, like no one's understanding any of the market, and of course doubt as well. We are seeing stories like this coming out, like on Zero Hedge. Fiat is fraud. Mexico's third richest man says absolutely right to buy Bitcoin, the new gold. And now I don't worship anything any billionaire says, but at the end of the day, when you see an asset going down while all this bullish news is blowing up all over the place, just obviously hidden from the media, I really think that this is worth going into. And before I go into it any further, make sure to hit the like button and join our Telegram group, World Alternative Media, and join our affiliate link if you want some live trail and if you want to prevent cancer with our apricot seeds that we are selling. Check the links below. But anyway, let's get into this story. It says fiat is fraud. Mexico's third richest man says absolutely right to buy Bitcoin, the new gold. And I quote, fiat is fraud. Look, I started my career in 1981. The Mexican peso was 20 to $1 today. We are at 20,000 to 1. And that's in Mexico. But if we look at Venezuela, Argentina, or Zimbabwe, the numbers lose all proportions. Those are the ominous words of Ricardo Salinas Pliego, Mexico's third richest man, in a recent interview in which he called the dollar a joke. And I quote, the fiat fraud is inherent to the fiat system. And we can see it today in USA. Monetary issuance went to the moon. You understand? The dollar as hard money is a joke. And it continues down here. Bitcoin, on the other hand, has fixed 21 million limit. And that is key, he said. I've invested a lot of time studying Bitcoin, and I think it's an asset that should be part of every investor's portfolio. It's an asset that has value, international value, that is traded with enormous liquidity at a global level, and that is enough reason for it to be part of every portfolio, period. The finite supply of Bitcoin, the 21 million, is a key part. That's why I say about Ethereum, while they don't have a finite supply, I don't believe anything they do. For all I know, they emit more and your asset depreciates. And it continues here. If today you could choose one asset, good or money, to take into the future, what would you take? Gold, silver, bolivars, Argentine pesos, Mexican pesos? The interview asks. And he continues laughing loudly. No stinky fiat for no reason. Not even a single peso. No paper bills. I would take Bitcoin. And they mentioned that you could watch the interview below. But I think it's interesting because it continues here, just going into more of what he says about Bitcoin. As trustnodes.com reports, Salinas is estimated to be worth more than $13 billion, with him revealing in November last year that he invested 10% of his liquid portfolio in Bitcoin. Well, he's done well then. Continuing on, it says, finally, as MicroStrategy CEO Michael Saylor tweeted following Salinas' interview, and I quote, if you are hoping to preserve your wealth for a generation, Ricardo Salinas suggests you invest in Bitcoin. The strategy is simple. Choose the highest quality asset you can find and hodl, to which the Mexican billionaire responded, and I quote, that's totally right. Bitcoin is the new gold, but too much more portable transport. Bitcoin is so much easier than having your in pockets gold bars. Now there's broken English, of course. And I know that I'm going to be attacked by gold lovers. And you could see his tweet there, says at the bottom, thoughts, Elon? But I mean, this is something that's really starting to happen a lot with El Salvador adopting Bitcoin as its currency. I mean, I believe that we're so undervalued right now, considering we're continuing to dip low and lower constantly but still like way up from last year at this time, way up from like 8 months ago at this time. But nonetheless, you have the prices up on the screen here. And you also have these stories about Ethereum, which again, I'm dumping my Ethereum mostly just because Vitalik Buterin gave so much money to Indian COVID relief. I just don't trust the guy anymore. But it says Ethereum looks to retake 2K days before London hard fork. Big breakout ahead. Well, I also think that privacy coins are the future right now, especially as we're going into absolutely insane times as far as vaccine passports, social credit scores, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The cashless society, strangely, can be met with a cashless system that's decentralized and even more so private, which I think eventually the people that are talking about Bitcoin today will slowly move into things like privacy coins down the line when you really don't have a chance to get around it. And right now, Pirate Chain's ranked at 104th of all cryptocurrencies.
I didn't know that
now.
till right now.
Honestly, this is like the amount that people are talking about Pirate Chain. It's in 104th. It deserves to be in the top 10, in my opinion. And I think that it very likely could be alongside Monero, alongside WoW Nero, alongside Epic Cash. And these privacy coins. A lot of people are talking about Darrow right now. I'm not in Darrow, but I do think that overall, you look at the 1 year and we are 11,646% up on Pirate. On the third day, we're 21% down, and we're 5.5% up on the 24. But I'm really bullish about Pirate Chain going forward. But anyway, let's talk a bit about this, Tim, because right now I feel like a lot of people are saying, oh, well, the cashless society, we can't go. Well, but we have this decentralized alternative that's scaring banks, that's scaring all these entities. And it's more likely that people, for the sake of convenience, are going to get into the free market decentralized cryptocurrencies rather than carry around blocks of gold on them. And I just think one way or another, we're looking at the future. You are a certified financial planner. You obviously allow your clients to use Bitcoin. You're one of the first people to ever do that. It's actually starting to blow up now, but you actually allow them to keep their private keys and everything. So you have a very interesting format. And of course, if you want to become a client of Tim Picciott, you can go to the libertyadvisor.com link below. But Tim, go into what do you think of this incredibly rich Mexican guy? I mean, when you see these things happening in Argentina, when you see these things happening in El Salvador, the adoption of crypto and how important it is to, especially impoverished countries. We're currently in Mexico. You don't see much Bitcoin around. How bullish is this for Bitcoin going forward?
Yeah, I think first off, I mean, when you've got money with a guy that looks like this on it, I don't think I want to hold on to that either.
It's free to call his husband, yeah.
I don't know who that is, but hopefully they let me out of here. But I think the thing that stands out to me most is the very first line in there when he said that he started his career in 1981 and the peso was 20 to 1 and now it's 20,000 to 1. So imagine if you, the average person in Mexico is probably not super highly educated, probably didn't go to school. Not that, school really matters anyway because you're just indoctrinated into a bunch of crap. But if you're trying to go and, save your dollars or save your pesos, I mean, you're basically trying to save an ice cube that keeps melting away rapidly. And so if even if you were saving your pesos all the way back to 1981, I mean, you would have lost, 1,000%, relative to the dollar, went down 1,000 times. I mean, so just imagine that. So everyone's like, oh, we're going to save and work hard. Well, if you're saving your money in a depreciating asset, you are losing out. And I think that's one of the biggest things that the American educational system lacks, is teaching people about actual basic financial knowledge. I mean, I know at this point we've talked about it several times before, but in 1964, minimum wage was $1.25. Quarters at the time, and all the money had 90% actual silver in it. And so that way, if you got paid, let's say $1.25, and you got paid in 5 quarters, that'd be like $35 an hour right now. Right. So it's the money that is losing, which is technically not money, but now what we have is currency, not money, different story. But when you've got the third richest person, getting it, and understanding that this is more, and it's not like he just went in this on a whim. This is a guy that studied this, researched it, like myself. I mean, I found out about Bitcoin underneath the dollar, but then I outsmarted myself, thought I was going to be used as the mark of the beast type system, which probably the blockchain technology is going to be used as the mark of the beast with a gov coin. That's a whole nother subject. And so we're going this way no matter what. And so you're either going to have the track, trace, surveilled government version, or you can have, some of the privacy coins that Josh is talking about, or, and there's different use cases. So something like Bitcoin is basically a digital store of value, digital gold. And yes, when you have a nascent early stage technology, it's going to be highly, highly volatile. And so, and when eventually, once it gets, less volatile, it's probably going to be like $1 million a coin. And maybe at that point, it doesn't fluctuate as much, but you've also missed out on the gains. So the potential rewards go to the people who are there to take on the risk. And so when it's not risky, then there's not going to be as much reward. So it's all risk and reward. Obviously, don't put in more than you can afford to lose. But if you're keeping all of your money in dollars, or certainly if you're keeping all your money in pesos, you're basically just going broke safely. And actually, I think the Mexican central bank surprised everybody about a week ago and actually raised interest rates. So that's something that they're not doing in America. But it all comes down to the fact that the money we have today is not hard. The money we have today, they can just go, like, literally there was one day February of 2020, where China on a Tuesday printed more than the entire market cap of Bitcoin in one day. Last December, when Bitcoin was worth around, 800, what was it, $800 billion. I mean, we had the government in 1 month print $900 billion. So in one day, we can print the entire market cap of Bitcoin. And the fact that these people a lot of people that trash Bitcoin, not saying everybody, but a lot of people that trash Bitcoin don't know anything about the current system. And they're like, oh, I don't know about how Bitcoin works. I'm like, well, I bet you can't tell me how the International Monetary Fund works, how the
Exactly.
settlements works, the Fed works.
And I also think this is really this is a game changing year really in general when it comes to cryptocurrency. When you have people taking it seriously on the more corporate side, the big money side. I mean, when you have all these people, these billionaires getting into crypto, it kind of goes, it casts a shadow on all these people for years that said, oh, Bitcoin is pedophile money, even though like if you use Bitcoin to buy children, you'd be tracked on the blockchain. It's pretty
This is not pedophile money.
But and then also they say, oh, Bitcoin is criminal money. Well, 99% of money used for crime is fiat. And they say, well, Bitcoin funds terrorism. Well, if you funded terrorists with Bitcoin, you'd be an idiot because you'd be immediately caught. And again, I'm not a fan of how transparent Bitcoin is, but there is a place for transparency on a decentralized public ledger that people can look at. But
or the government using something that's transparent so we can see what they're up to. So
yeah,
but of course they don't want to do that because they don't want us knowing what they're up to.
Which is why they're trying to combat Bitcoin by trying to create all these totally centrally planned currencies, digital currencies through the banks, through the banking system, and to be able to track everyone and trace everyone and connect people to social credit scores and basically hold your money hostage against you. So I think it's really important to have something independent of the banking system and the government, obviously. And I know a lot of people are still like, they don't want to get involved, but it's not even about making money. It's not about speculation, though it can be done. Because it's both an investment as something that's being adopted as a currency. So obviously there's going to be demand for something that hasn't been widespread as of yet. But with that said, I think it's more about keeping yourself safe against not only a dollar crash, but also the fact that people are getting traced and tracked everywhere. And that's why I keep bringing up Pirate Chain and Monero and WowNero and Epic Cash, because I think it's important that people get into the privacy coins to combat against this cashless society, which again, people so often can't see the difference between the two. But we're also entering into inflation is one of the biggest evils we face on earth right now. And it's one of those things that most people don't understand, yet it affects every single human being that lives on earth. There's no one out there, unless you're living in the jungle and using Starbucks, literally like sand dollars in order to pay for things in the middle of nowhere. There's no way it doesn't affect you. Every single person on earth is affected by inflation. And a lot of people don't realize how harshly it does affect them and how much more value, how much more wealth they would have if it weren't for inflation. And I believe that cryptocurrency can, one, work as a hedge against inflation, much like gold and silver, but two, be convenient. I always said tyranny comes under the guise of convenience. And if the free market creates things that are more convenient than the government run, psychopathic, centralized, central banking system convenience, then we will replace them without a shot being fired. And I think that's important to have a non-violent, not revolution, evolution, which has obviously been made more difficult in the last year, but has obviously been made more important in the last year as well. So I think we are starting to see that move towards it. And whether or not you agree with the billionaire that gets involved in this or not, it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter at all. If they're doing this and they're trying to escape the dollar, much like we see swaps around the world out of the US dollar into things like the Chinese yuan, and there's a huge power shift happening in the centralized currencies and a lot of desperation moves at the same time. And they're talking about raising interest rates in the next 2 years, and they'll probably drop them out. It's going to be terrible. It's going to be a really bad time if you are just stuck in fiat currency.
Think of all the things like coalescing in the next few months. You got the debt ceiling that's, and the thing is they've already gone through the debt ceiling, but then they have all these different extraordinary measures that they call them where, I don't really care if they stop paying on the government pensions and things like that and putting money in there. But, if you are a government worker right now, I think there's something called the G fund, which is like their money market fund. They just yank all that money out to then pay for the ongoing expenses. So imagine that's how things have been going on, probably, basically for the past, 30 years. But now it's getting to the point where it's absolutely insane. They wait to the absolute last second to actually do something about it. Then you've got, they're probably going to start tapering back the bond purchases, which will then, obviously, if you're not going to be buying $120 billion of bonds a month, even if you're buying 100, then 80, then 60, then 40, that's going to then naturally cause the interest rates to go up. The interest rates going up will then cause the rest of the financial markets to go down, which will then be the excuse to then come in to quote unquote save the day to then. I mean, that's what happened in October 2018. You had the Federal Reserve saying that they could, sell $50 billion of bonds a month. I was out there saying that there's no way they could do this. And then the market went down 20%. And as soon as it goes down 20%, the Fed, reneges and every single thing they said they're going to do. And now we're at the point where not only are they not selling $50 billion a month, now they're buying $120 billion a month. And that was a big conspiracy theorist for saying there's no way they can do that, but they're going to use any crash to then buy. So I actually expect that on a long time horizon, like the Dow Jones and to be probably above 1 million at some point. But the thing is, if the dollar is inflated away and the denominator that it's priced in loses its value, then it doesn't really mean anything. And I can't remember the quote from Keynes, but it says something like inflation is much more insidious than this tax. And then this is hidden wealth tax, and not 1 in a million will be able to detect. And no, that's not the exact quote. And then you got something like Lenin or Stalin had another quote too, along the lines of, the best way to destroy basically a civilization is to destroy the currency or to balk the currency. I believe that was the quote. And the thing is, it's much more insidious. It is a much more sneaky way of taxing people, because if you wanted to straight out tax somebody an extra 2%, they're going to put up a big fight to that. But if you wanted to then say, oh, hey, we're just going to, not even saying it, you just, print the money, and then all of a sudden their purchasing power goes down. It affects the poorest people the most, because now they're not able to buy as many goods, and they're going to weaponize that against, the quote unquote rich people. But the rich people that the media wants to make it seem like are not really the super rich people. They want you to seem like the guy making $250,000 is like the evil guy, when the guy that makes $250,000 has a lot more in common, than you, or, the person out there making 50 grand than the person that's making, $2 billion a year.
And the more money he makes, the more money, or the more employees can be hired, the more wealth can be spread. And that's obviously on the free market. But I want to point out that, we're hearing all this news about China. We've gone into it already on this channel regarding China. But the point is, again, China is cracking down on Bitcoin. Of course they are. We all knew this was going to happen eventually. And here we are. And this is the battle we've been waiting for. And I believe that at the same time, we have China cracking down on Facebook, Google, and YouTube and Twitter and all these websites for years, and it obviously didn't hurt them too much. They just propped up their own WeChat. Well, WeChat sucks, and so do all these other major platforms in the US now. But at first, they were quite revolutionary before they were totally taken over, though Facebook was taken over from the beginning. But with that said, I want to point out that we're in the calm before the storm right now, and I say that right now, sitting here in Puerto Vallarta, as there's literally a hurricane hitting right now. We're literally in a hurricane at the moment, so the electricity could go out any moment. So I should probably wrap up the video just in case they shuts down this recording. But with that said, I mean, we are in the calm before the storm, and I believe that everything is just so calm and just chill right now, with Bitcoin just bouncing between 30 and 40. I feel like we're so overdue at this point for it to just explode through the roof, because, and this is in my opinion, this isn't investment advice, but I'm looking at it like you have El Salvador, you have Argentina, you're hearing things from Paraguay, and you're hearing things from Colombia, Venezuela, and all these places. And they are all these places are all adopting this stuff first. The IMF is freaking out over it. And guess what? All these countries that were once some of the most poor countries, it's like we've seen in history before, the most poor places tend to suddenly, out of desperation and need for independence, grow faster than the former empires, which then collapse and then take much longer.
Places become some of the poorest, like Richest in Argentina used to be a thing, and then now they go and they debase the currency for, I don't know what it's like, the third time in this century, and they're in the point where they're at right now. And the thing is, that's the model where things will keep going. So what, with all these multi-trillion-dollar deficits, I mean, does anyone think that this is going to get better? I mean, there's no way that this is going to get any better. And then the big thing is going to be, eventually there's going to be a decoupling between the financial markets and Bitcoin and crypto. And so maybe the globalists have overplayed their hand too much, and who knows if it's going to be this time or the next time. But you know, I would expect, you know, during the beginning stages of a financial crisis to have Bitcoin go down again. But then the response is going to be to print so much money that I expect, you know, what happened March 2020 to happen again, where there will be that decoupling. But eventually there might be a crash where if Bitcoin is already crashed and then you have the other financial markets crashed, maybe Bitcoin help hold steady, and then it could go up. And so but eventually I think that will be the case. And again, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know if it's going to be next time.
Well, I was expecting that Bitcoin would hit about $27,000 in a dip. And just after we posted the last video, it fell to 29,000 and immediately bounced up to 33,000. It's been absolutely crazy, but I still believe that by end of year, $100,000. And either way, whether with or without inflation, I believe Bitcoin will hit $1 million someday. And we're entering into the great economic globalist reset, mass starvation, and the complete destruction of the global economy. So I think it goes without saying to protect yourself again with the privacy coins. I think that's important. But anyway, before we wrap it up, Tim, can you tell people where they can go and sign up to become a client with you and what they can get out of it regarding crypto?
Yeah, I guess you can go to the libertyadvisor.com. I actually don't have that many, it's not like a marketing thing. I don't have that many appointments for the next month and a half. I'm looking at bringing on 4 or 5 other guys right now who are all, you know, going through training, taking their tests, and at that point we'll have more availability. So if you don't quite meet the minimum threshold right now, you can send me an email or say, hey, I'd like to be put on the waiting list. But, you know, going forward, we're gonna have new capabilities and other people. It's just hard, you know, it's like trying to find unicorns of advisors that have, you know, the libertarian perspective and background and can talk to people like you guys, and then also have the crypto background. And so, you know, it's not, and aren't already super crypto rich and actually want to work. So the problem is a lot of people already know this stuff already work, you know, worth tens of millions of dollars, so they don't want to actually work. So so trying to find unicorns out there. So it's not like that I don't want to go work with you if you don't have the minimum. It's just that there's only so much time in the day to do stuff, and I've got to have a life too, and, you know, be able to enjoy things before we end up going through this reset. But libertyadvisor.com, you can also find me. Actually, I'm on YouTube where I'm putting out stuff, you know, every now and then, and obviously doing videos with Josh, and Float at the Liberty Advisor. So mainly Float at Liberty Advisor, the Liberty Advisor, Tim Picciott on YouTube. Help me get over 3,000. I'm almost at 3,000 on YouTube, but basically I'm using YouTube to tell people to go to other places, and obviously BitChute and Odyssey, I'm on there as well.
Awesome. All right. Well, I do want to point out before you guys leave, don't go anywhere. I want to let you guys know about the Richardson Nutritional Center, which are coming on as our new sponsors here at World Alternative Media. And of course, many of you have heard of John Richardson, and John Richardson is famous from J. Edward Griffin's book, World Without Cancer, where he followed this guy back in the 1960s as he was curing people of cancer with apricot seeds and a very specific thing, Liatril. And this company is going strong. His son, who I spent time with recently at the Red Pill Expo in Rapid City, South Dakota, awesome person. We talked, and I said, you know, we have to do this. We have to get together. We have to sell these apricot seeds. It could save lives. And you know, sue me. I'm not saying that it's definitely going to cure cancer. I'm saying that the studies that have been done clearly show that it has worked for those people. And so I'm not going to cast shade on the fact that these have been heavily studied, and the establishment has done everything to stop it. And now the market is blowing up for apricot seeds. So make sure to check our link. We have an affiliate link below this video, and go and get your apricot seeds. It could be life-changing, and maybe you'll never even know that it was life-changing, because you will never have to deal with the strain and the horrible tragedy that is cancer, which has blown up in the last century due to many hosts of many things. So anyway, check that link below. Join us on our Telegram group, World Alternative Media. We are on BitChute, we're on Odyssey, we are on Float.app, we are on Rumble. We're also on the bad guys like Twitter at World Alt Media, as well as Instagram, World Alternative Media. We are on things like Hive, Steemit, etc., Minds, all those guys. We're everywhere. We have to be, except for YouTube. Though I do have a Josh Sigurdson channel, you can subscribe on YouTube, but what's the point? But with that said, you can help support us by going to that affiliate link and getting yourself some of those seeds, going to our Teespring store, or you can go to gogetfunding.com, Patreon, subscribe star. We have a Bitcoin address, and we have a link called Cointree, where you can go there and donate in many different things, including Monero, if you want to keep things private and feel like you're getting watched by sending us money, which I don't think is going to be a big deal, because at the end of the day, you know, the louder you are, the more you become a martyr if they try to go after you. And I feel like everyone should be getting louder than ever right now, and not
the system
allowing
has
fear
much
to
bigger
keep us
fish to
down.
fry. Like everyone was at the January 6th and going through all that sort of stuff. And I mean, they're not going to be like, oh, someone that's watching Josh Sigurdson and gave him $20 once is going to be on the list. And at a certain point, it's like, if you're not on the list, you know, you should pretty much be ashamed of yourself. So it's like, what are you doing? You know?
Now, yeah. And we have a PayPal address, and of course we have NFTs. I gotta like start cutting some of those things out so I don't have to be long-winded and talk about a million things at the end of the video. But there's many options to help keep us up and running. So I really appreciate it, my friends. And as like I said before, go to thelibertyadvisor.com if you want to become a client of Tim Picciott. Many videos on the horizon here, so stay tuned. We got lots of interviews coming up. I got some really big names coming up for interviews that I'm not going to tell you about yet, but you'll see. You might be pleasantly surprised. Anyway, we're going to go embrace a hurricane here in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, in my concrete house. And until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson and Tim Picciott signing up from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.